Hello everyone, welcome to the Self-Knowledge Lectures. As every Sunday we have our Phase B lectures and we have the lecture number 14 in which we are going to talk about 3 types of Tantrism, as you can see here. So we are going to study this very interesting topic in order to get to understand why we said this, why we say that the great battles between white magicians and black magicians has its root in sex. Why? What is the issue with sex? Well, actually today we are going to understand this. And well, let's immediately start today's topic. And let's see that the objective, as we always say, of today's lecture will be to know this or the 3 types of Tantrism that exist, to know their characteristics, and to know how to learn to differentiate them. Also today we are going to be explaining how to practice the white Tantrism. That is what is the practice of the suprasexuality. So today we are going to see also that practice, because here, even though we are going to explain the 3 types of Tantrism, it is important to know that in this self-knowledge course we are focused to the white Tantrism, because that is the only one that can lead us to achieve the self-realization of our being. And we are going to see why, right? So let's start talking about Tantrism. What is it? Actually, when we are talking about Tantrism, we are talking about a practice of sex. And when we are talking about Tantras, well, just a second. Let me check quickly something here. I'm sorry. Just a second. Okay. And well, when we are talking about Tantras or Tantrics, we are talking about people who have had sex. So that means that all of us, if we have had sex, we are Tantrics. The important thing is to learn to differentiate these 3 types of Tantrism to get to know in what position we are, right? So there is this serpent that we can develop in our spine, which is the Kundalini. And actually this is this was represented, sorry, I'm having this throat issues. And well, this is represented as that bronze serpent that healed the Israelites. You know, the serpent that Moses lifted up in the cane. And that is like the Kundalini. And well, that bronze serpent and the tempting serpent of Eden, which is the representation of that inverted serpent with that inverted fire of the Kundalini, but it is inverted form, they actually fight each other. And that is why, or you can see that here, this bronze serpent is the one that is used to heal. That is the one that can heal ourselves. That is the one that can regenerate ourselves and create ourselves internally. But actually, this is a very powerful serpent. Actually, the Kundalini is something very powerful. And if you use it to awaken your consciousness, you can actually become a god. But if you use it in its inverted way, you can actually get many powers, because the black magicians say you develop many powers, but you are going to end up becoming a demon because you are going on the opposite direction, right? So that is why the great battle is there in sex, because with sex is that you can develop this internal fire, this Kundalini. And if you are like it or dependent to how are you using your sexuality, you are feeding your white magician or you are feeding your black magician. You are becoming a white magician or you are becoming a black magician. Okay, so in the first one, the one that develops the Kundalini is the white Tantrism, and the one that develops the Kunda buffer organ, or the tempting serpent of Eden, is the black Tantrism. And those who practice the white sexual magic or white Tantrism, they never ever spill the semen in their whole life, because they understand that there in the semen, in your seminal liquid, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. Actually, the female the woman has their own seminal liquid, even though you don't see it like in an ejaculation, right? But the thing is that the white magicians, or the ones who practice the white sexual magic, they know about the value of this sexual energy, and they use it, or they send it, upward and inward and upward, so they can awaken their faculties in a conscious way, so they can feed their consciousness. And on the other side, those who practice the black sexual magic, they, yes, spill the semen. And that is like something that can differentiate those two from the very beginning, right? So, as I was saying, there are three kinds or types of Tantrism. That is the white one, that is the black one, and that is the gray one. And let's study in detail each one of them. Well, and as I always say, if you have any question, remember about this topic, you can leave your questions there in the chat, and I will be gladly solving any question that you have. Okay, so let's see, what is the white Tantrism? Well, in this, there is no orgasm or ejaculation. In this, a transcendental fire develops, because it only develops with the white Tantrism. Okay, with this Tantrism, then we awaken our sacred fire of the Kundalini, or the Kundalini serpent, which is the fire of the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is a part of our consciousness that is in charge of creating ourselves internally. It is like that energy that is going to crystallize our internal body. So the purpose of this sexual union of the white one is the creation of the existential bodies of the being, of those 7 vehicles that are going to be like the vehicle for our consciousness to have a conscious manifestation or full presence in the different dimensions of nature. And this practice must always take place between a man and a woman, the phallus within the yoni, or into the yoni, or the penis in the vagina. That is totally necessary, and doesn't include fornication. Never. Understanding that fornication is the expulsion or spilling our sexual creative energy. So that is to say that there are 3 basic requirements for a sexual union to be white Tantrism. So, because a white Tantrism must always be presided over by fidelity, chastity, and love. Fidelity means that you are going to practice sexuality with a stable partner of the opposite sex. Chastity means that you are never going to spill your sexual energy, because the key is phallus uterus connection without ejaculation of the sacred sperm. So that is achieving chastity. Never spilling your sexual energy, but manage to send it all the time, every time that you sexually join your partner, to make this energy ascend through your spine. And the third requirement for it to be a white magic practice or white Tantrism is love. Between the couple must be love, not a union made for mere personal convenience, or a union in which there are, a marriage in which there are continuous feelings of hatred or resentment. No, we need to be working with the psychological death, all of that, so we develop the love with our partner. Because if we go to have sex with our partner and we are having those feelings of resentment, hatred, or if we are just there, as I was saying, because of convenience, there is no love there. So actually, these Kundalini serpents can be lifted because, or you know that the highest vibration in the universe is love, right? So if you are not feeling love, then nothing can be lifted in you. Nothing can be arise. Nothing can arise in you. Okay. So what is the method for the white Tantrism? You know already the requirements. So if you have these requirements, or you are working to have these requirements, then what is the step-by-step for this practice? Well, the first one is to always do the conjuration of the belly and the magic circle. Remember that we talked that those conjurations in the lecture number 7 of the phase A, and it is here recorded in the page in case you or the channel. If you are watching these lectures and in YouTube, they are there recorded, and you can look for the conjuration lecture, which is the 7 of the phase A. This is very important. This is a very important step. It is important that you, before having sex, you make sure that you clean the environment from any negative energy or any larva or any negative entity that is around you. It is important. And it is very important that you close the place, that you close it with the magic circle. Why? Because the black magicians, they are all the time trying to interfere to make us have a sexual fall. So we are going to avoid this by cleaning and closing our place before practicing sex, okay? And the second step is to make a request for assistance to our inner father and to our divine mother, of each one. Each one is going to make their own request for assistance, something simple. It's not like you're going to sit and pray for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. Now you're going to do this simple request for your inner being to assist you during this practice, to allow you to have concentration, a good imagination to send your energy, and a lot of will in the practice that help you also to control the mind. Okay, so you can be there concentrated. Once you make this short request, you are going to proceed to ignite or to light the fire with caresses and kisses until a perfect lubrication in the female yoni is achieved for penetration and the man has a correct erection. And once you have a good erection and a good lubrication, then you're going to proceed to the connection. There's a connection or penetration of the lingam in the yoni, that is the penis in the vagina. Once you are connected, you can make soft movements until you have like good sexual potency or good power. And once you have that correct erection and good lubrication, you proceed with the respiratory process that is going to allow you to transmute this sexual energy, okay? And this respiratory process has 3 stages: inhalation, retention, and exhalation. During the inhalation, which is something that you are going to do very slowly, the goal is to reach 20 seconds. Hopefully you can reach that 20 seconds while inhaling. Do not pressure yourself. You're going to be developing your lungs capacity as you do this practice. Every time you're going to be like improving your lungs capacity. But you do it as slowly as possible, okay? You inhale, retain. While retaining, you imagine how this powerful energy goes, converted in that golden thread, all the way to your coccyx and goes up until it reaches this point between the eyebrows. And then when you do all this process slowly also, you are going to exhale the air, mentalizing the vowel I, but with the sound E, like E. Something that is important to take into account is that there is this bass clef, or also known as the fa clef or the F clef, something that you find in music here. And it is because the first two bodies, the regeneration of the physical body and the regeneration of our vital body, we are going to do that process, those two first initiations of major mysteries, sending our energy when doing this sexual practice until this point, until this the point between the eyebrows. If you can see here with your spine, you are doing like this this cleft, the base cleft. You're sending your energy and putting this like here, and that way you're going to be regenerating first your physical body. And when you manage to feel the 33 vertebrae of your physical body, then you're going to regenerate your vital body doing the practice like this. Here you can see like example in the case of the woman, inhaling, sending the air, filling the lungs, sending the air to your sexual gonads. In the case of the woman, the ovaries. Imagining that powerful sexual energy that goes like a golden thread all the way to the coccyx first and then upward, all the way through the spine, vertebra by vertebra, until reaching this point. And here, exhale the first time with the vowel E, E, E. Second time, inhaling, retaining, imagining the energy coming here, and the second time with the vowel A, like ah. And the third time, inhaling, retaining, sending the energy with the base clef until this point, and exhaling, mentalizing the sound O, like O. Is E, A, O. Those are the mantras for the sexual, the white sexual magic, for the creation, the crystallizations of the existential bodies of the being. In the case of the man, it's the exact same procedure, the same, sending the air with the imagination to the sexual gonads, in the case of the men, the testicles, and then sending the sexual energy all the way through the spine until reaching this point and mentalizing the same vowels in order. The first respiratory process, the sound E. In the second, the sound A. In the third, the sound O. Both can do the process at the very same time if you want to. And you are going to continue doing this, uploading your sexual energy with these three processes. You're going to repeat this as long as needed, as long as you have sexual potency. If at any time the sexual potency drops, you are going to make gentle movements, caresses, caresses, until you feel that you again have the power, the sexual potency, the erection or the lubrication. And then when you already have the sexual potency, there you continue uploading the energy. And you can do that for as long as the couple wants it. And if there is a point when you do movements, kisses, caresses, and you don't regain the potency, is because you have already uploaded all the energy that you have for that day, and there the sexual practice ends. Okay, and well, as I was saying, we have this base clef, which is with the one that we are going to regenerate the physical body and the vital body. But when we finish regenerating those two bodies, then internally in the astral plane, we are going to be told to start sending that energy to our hearts. And we are going to start using this other clef, which is the treble clef, or the soul clef, or G clef. Some, different names that we have in music for this clef. And the thing is, or what it means, is that you are going to make a change in the way that you are transmuting the energy. You are not going only, you are not only going to send the energy to this point, but you are going to send the energy here, and you are going to make it turn, and you're going to send it to your heart, and you are going to wrap that energy there in your heart. If you look here, you're going to see that it's just like the same clef that we find in music, because there is a total relation, like in everything in this world, with our interior. And well, it's like the exact same practice. Bellowing, magic circle, request resistance, the same. Ignite the fire with kisses and caresses, the same process of penetration, and then inhalation, imagining the air entering. I mean, the exact same procedure at the beginning. And when you send the air to your sexual gonads, then you imagine and you feel how a golden thread goes or ascends all the way through the spine, vertebra by vertebra, something that you do slowly, as I was saying, from there to the point between the eyebrows. And what happens that when you reach there, you are going to make your energy descend to your heart in this treble clef to the heart. Yeah, and wraps there in the heart. And why is that? Well, and when you send the energy there, you are going to exhale first, the same with the E. The second time, when you send the energy again here with the A, and the third time with the O, exact the same thing. Okay, so why is this? Why now, from the third initiation and to create the astral body, and there the mental body and the causal body, we need to do this change? It is because now we are not regenerating. At that point, we are creating. And just as when a creature, a fetus is there in the mother's womb, the first organ that starts developing is the heart, and from there, every part of the body. The same with the creation of our internal bodies. We need to develop that body from the heart. That is like the first organ of the body where it's going to start like developing. And from the third dimension, from the third initiation and on, we are creating. The first two were regenerating because we have fully created, let's say, our physical and our vital body. But of the astral, mental, and causal, we don't have the full body created. We just have an embryo. And we need to start developing that embryo. And well, as I was saying, this procedure is repeated as many times as necessary. And the success of the practice will always be to withdraw from the practice or to end the practice without ever spilling the sexual creative energy. That is, without ejaculating or reaching orgasm. Okay, and that is the practice of the white tantrism. Some recommendations to take into account with this practice is never to this practice during the lactation, during pregnancy, never, or during the menstrual period. That the menstrual period is is always 7 days. Okay, it doesn't matter if the bleeding is just 3 days. You always it's important to wait 7 days from the day that the bleeding starts. Okay, so it is 7 days. That is a pause that you do every month for 7 days, and after that you continue practicing the suprasexuality. Another recommendation, doing this practice once per night. It's important to wait at least 20 hours, at least from one practice to the other. Another recommendation is, remember to always make gentle movements just to regain the potency, never rough movements that can lead you to overexcitement and ejaculation. And another recommendation is to be patient and to be constant, working the psychological depth to get to control and to get to completely eliminate the fornicating self. That is the one that is always like leading us to expel the sexual energy. That is something that must die in us. And well, that ascending fire actually is very powerful. It has the power to awaken the chakras and open the 7 churches of the apocalypse. Remember that we talk about that in the Phase B lectures, I think in the 6th one. And those churches and chakras are in our spine, and with that power, with that kundalini, we are going to awaken them and to receive their faculties, their powers, and their wisdom. And this practice of sexual magic, white sexual magic, lead us on the path of the intimate self-realization. Actually, the only thing that really works in this path is the white Tantrism. And well, now let's talk a little about the black Tantrism. And well, when we are talking about black Tantrism, we are actually talking about the awakening of that igneous serpent, but in its negative form, in its downwards. Okay, and in this practice, or in the black Tantrism, the person knows about the power of sex, but is consciously, let's say, using it for evil purposes. There is the connection in this practice of the lingam yoni, but there are magical rites, and there is always seminal ejaculation. So the sacred fire in the black Tantrism, what it does is that it precipitates from the coccyx towards the atomic hells of men, which are our own infra dimensions, where all our ego lives. You know, the black tantrics, what they do is that they reabsorb the semen after having spilled it with some rites that they have, that we are not going to teach. But the result is fatal, because the semen, after having been spilled, becomes charged with satanic atoms. And when that energy is inside of our body, it is actually very pure, something very powerful. But when that semen is spilled, it is fornicated, then it is charged with all those lunar atoms that, when re-entering the organism, acquire the power to awaken that kundalini, but in a negative way. And then the tail of Satan appears, which is, the contact buffer organ. That you can see here, that the second snake that we were talking about opens the 7 chakras that are in the lower abdomen, that, for example, the Mohammedans call the 7 gates of hell. We do have those 7 chakras in the lower abdomen, and they are open with this practice, with the practice of the black Tantrism. And what they do is that they develop the contact buffer organ. They crystallize this tail in the astral plane, and the person ends up becoming a real demon. Yeah, you saw that the white Tantrism has certain requirements that were fidelity, chastity, and love. And in this case, in the black Tantrism, the requirements are the adultery, so not to be faithful to the partner, to make this practice with this one, with that one, the fornication, to always spill this sexual energy, and the lack of love. Those are like the basis of this practice of the black Tantrism. And now, black magicians are all the time trying to confuse people, teaching that, for example, it's possible to awaken the kundalini by spilling energy. So probably you can find people there talking about the awakening of the kundalini, but they are not teaching you anything about the chastity. They are not saying anything about the importance of never spilling the sexual energy. There you can know that these are teachings of the black magicians, because that is what they tell people. They say, no, with the kundalini, yes, you can have powers, you can develop your faculties, you can have this and that, but they never teach you about chastity. They also teach that it's possible to awaken the Kundalini with several partners. So it is not necessary to have a stable partner there, or participating in orgies, or doing homosexual practices. Actually, the reality is as just to create it is necessary the two poles, the positive and the negative, and the two sexual organs, the penis and the vagina. It is like a requirement for a white tantrism to be white tantrism. But they can teach the people that as making homosexual practices, yes, of course, they can actually awaken the Kundalini. And with many concepts, it can sound very logical. They can say no, because you see that in a homosexual couple, one of them has the female energy and the other one has like the male energy, even though they are of the same sex. Those are just intellectual concepts. So it has nothing to do with the truth. If you go and you ask your inner being about this, you are going to see that it is impossible to awaken the Kundalini in its positive way in a homosexual practice. It is impossible. It is not going against the homosexuals, or that we are hating or anything like that at all. Actually, we all have the homosexual self in ourselves, and we need to work on that. But the thing is to understand the reality in this, and that the homosexualism is actually a degeneration of the sex. It's a defect of lust. That is a reality. Well, another thing is that they teach people that it's possible to awaken the Kundalini by doing or by practicing the oral sex or the anal sex or the masturbation. There is nothing wrong with that for them, okay? And what is the result of this? That this spinal fire, instead of going up through the medullary canal, it goes down towards the atomic infernus of men and crystallize the tail of the Kunda buffer in the astral body, becoming internally a real demon. Someone can get to any of these schools, these teachings, the black magicians' teachings, with all the good intentions, but by practicing this, they end up really crystallizing this tail in their astral body. Okay, and well, that is the black tantrism. And now let's talk a little about the gray tantrism. The gray tantrism, here you find a sex that is like the one that the vast majority of humanity practices, in which the purpose is only the animal enjoyment, without any transcendental longings, you know. In that one, as I was saying, is the most common. The vast majority of humanity practices this kind of sex, in which they are just seeking for pleasure, for the pleasure of expelling their sexual energy, but without having any knowledge of the power that is in sex and in the powerful sexual energy. So they only serve as bodies that are like charged daily to fulfill their functions. But as they fornicate their energies all the time, they are constantly feeding with that energy all the subhuman entities that live within themselves, that is their own ego, and to those subhuman entities that live outside of them. So as we saw, for example, in the lecture number 46 of the Phase 8, where we were learning to protect ourselves from, the constant attacks of the Black Lodge, in which they are all the time trying to steal our sexual energy. As they know the power of the sexual energy, black magicians do know the power of this energy, and they use it for their perverse purposes, and they are seeking to find anyone who has no idea of the power of this energy. That is like most of people. That is why we are here, like teaching this information so that people awaken about this. And they are there finding these people, to see who is feeling their sexual energy, so they can try to steal it. And there you find, for example, or you live the sleep paralysis, or you find yourself in the astral plane in a dream, unconscious, and you find that beautiful girl, very gorgeous one, very sexy, or a sexy man, and that person wants to copulate with you, and there you go and have sex with that entity that, even though as you are so asleep and fascinated, looks like if it is something very sexy, very sexy, very gorgeous, actually you are copulating with a horrible entity, and that entity is there feeding on that energy, because the person reaches orgasm and ejaculation, fornicate, and that entity is there feeding with that energy. That is the great Tantrism. That is what most of people do. And when you are doing your sex practice, nobody knows about the what is this? Nobody knows about the Berlin and the magic circle. I mean, almost nobody. And they go and they do their practices of sex open. The black magician can come in the fourth dimension. You don't see it. And it's there just waiting until you fornicate your sexual energy, waiting for you to feel the sexual energy, and they go and they make a feast where there is the fornication. Actually, a practice of sex is a magic ritual. But when you unite to make this energy ascend, it is a white magic ritual, something very beautiful, very powerful. And when you get to fornicate that sexual energy, that becomes a like satanic rite. That is what it is. So it's important that we know that all the great tantrics inevitably become black tantrics. And why? We can have a conclusion from this. Every fornicator, even if he is like unaware of the black tantrism, he is a tantric and inevitably becomes a dark personality with the fully developed tempting serpent of Eden. So that means that even though you are just practicing great tantrism, you are going to end up, as you are feeding your own ego with this energy, and you are all the time like making your psyche like heavier with every fornication, and your own ego is getting stronger. There is a existence or life in which you become aware of the power of sex, and there you consciously decide to start use it to seek power, to seek prestige, to seek material things, to seek domination on others, etc. And there you end up becoming a black magician. So actually this is something very important to take into account. That the only thing, the only practice that is going to lead us to awaken our consciousness, to seek and to reach the intimate self-realization of our being is the white tantrism. That is important. And well, this has been today's lecture. This is all the information that I have for you today. I hope that it is helpful for you. And well, if at any point you watch the video and you have any question, or if at any point you have any question, you can come and you can write your questions there, and I will be gladly solving any question that you have, or you can write me on the messenger. Okay? And I want to invite you to our next Phase B lecture next Sunday, in which we are going to be talking about the ray of creation. In that one, we are going to know how the creation in the whole universe is like order. And we will talk about the 7 cosmos and how each one of them is composed. Okay? So, that is all for today. Thank you very much to all of you. And well, see you the next time. Ciao, ciao.